When you hear English, you may understand a lot. For example, you might be able to watch English movies or listen to people speak in English, and you can follow the story or the conversation without too much trouble. This is because your brain has learned to recognize many words and phrases in English over time. You might have learned these words through school, watching TV, or even from songs. Understanding English is a big step in learning the language because it shows that your brain is getting used to the sounds, patterns, and meanings of English words. You are building a mental library of words that you can recognize when you hear them. This is a great achievement and a sign that you are on the right path. However, it's important to know that understanding and speaking are two different skills. Just because you can understand what someone is saying doesn't mean that you can easily say the same things yourself. Understanding is more passive, while speaking is an active skill that requires more effort and practice. Why speaking is hard? Speaking English can be compared to playing a sport, like soccer. Imagine that you are a big fan of soccer, and you watch games all the time. You understand the rules of the game, you know how the players move on the field, and you can see the strategy that the teams are using to win. You might even be able to explain the game to someone else and talk about the players' strengths and weaknesses. But when it comes to actually playing soccer yourself, it's not as easy as it looks. You have to run quickly, kick the ball accurately, and make quick decisions in the middle of the game. Your brain and body need to work together in perfect harmony, and that takes a lot of practice and experience. The same is true for speaking English. Your brain needs to quickly find the right words, put them in the correct order, and then make your mouth move to pronounce them clearly. This can be very challenging, especially if you are not used to speaking English regularly. Your brain might know the words, but it needs more practice to be able to use them quickly and correctly when you speak. Listening and speaking are different. When you listen to English, your brain is mainly focused on recognizing the words that you hear. It matches the sounds with the words and meanings that you have learned before. Listening is a passive skill because you are receiving information that someone else is giving you. Your brain processes the sounds, identifies the words, and understands the meaning. But when you speak, your brain has to do much more. It has to create the words and sentences from scratch, think about the grammar, and then control your mouth and tongue to make the right sounds. This takes a lot more effort and practice than just listening. It's a bit like the difference between reading a book and writing one. When you read, the words are already on the page, and your job is to understand them. But when you write, you have to think of the words yourself and put them in the right order. Writing is more challenging because you are creating something new, just like speaking. The fear of making mistakes. One of the biggest reasons why people understand English but struggle to speak it is fear. You might be afraid of making mistakes when you speak. You might worry that you will say something wrong or that people will laugh at you or not understand what you are trying to say. This fear can be very strong and can stop you from even trying to speak. It's like being afraid to try something new because you think you might fail. But it's important to remember that making mistakes is a natural part of learning any new skill, including speaking English. Every mistake you make is actually a chance to learn something new and improve. If you never make mistakes, you will never know what you need to work on. So instead of being afraid of mistakes, try to see them as opportunities to grow and get better. The more you practice, the fewer mistakes you will make and the more confident you will become. Lack of practice. Another common reason why people can understand English but struggle to speak it is a lack of practice. If you spend most of your time listening to English but really try to speak it, your speaking skills won't improve as quickly as your listening skills. Speaking is like any other skill, it requires regular practice to get better. If you only practice once in a while, it will take much longer to improve. Think of it like learning to play a musical instrument. If you only play the guitar once a week, you won't improve very quickly. But if you practice every day, even for a short time, you will get better much faster. The same is true for speaking English. The more you practice speaking, the more natural it will feel, and the easier it will become. Your brain needs time to get used to speaking English. Learning a new language is like building new roads in your brain. At first, these roads are small and hard to use. But the more you practice, the wider and smoother these roads become. This process doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, patience, and a lot of practice. Your brain has to create new connections and patterns to help you remember the words and how to use them. But the good news is that the more you practice, the faster your brain will learn. Over time, speaking English will become more natural, and you will be able to speak without thinking too much about it. How to improve your speaking skills? Practice speaking every day. To get better at speaking English, it's important to practice every day. Just like with any other skill, the more you practice, the better you will become. You can start by speaking to yourself. This might feel a little strange at first, but it's a very effective way to practice. For example, you can talk about what you did during the day, describe what you see around you, or even read a book or a magazine out loud. Speaking out loud will help you get used to the sounds of English and help you feel more comfortable forming sentences. Another way to practice is by thinking in English. Instead of thinking in your native language and then translating, try to think directly in English. This will help you get used to the language and make speaking easier. Remember, the key is to practice every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. The more you practice, the more natural speaking English will become. Use simple words. When you are just starting to speak English, it's a good idea to use simple words and phrases. Don't worry about trying to use big or complicated words. It's better to speak simply and clearly so that you can communicate effectively. For example, instead of saying I am feeling extremely fatigued, you can say I am very tired. Simple words are easier to remember and easier to use, especially when you are still learning. As you get more comfortable speaking, you can start to introduce more difficult words and phrases into your speech. But at the beginning, it's important to keep things simple. This will help you build your confidence and make it easier to practice speaking without getting overwhelmed. Listen and repeat. A great way to improve your speaking skills is to listen to English and then repeat what you hear. You can do this with TV shows, movies, songs, or even podcasts. First, listen to how the words are pronounced and try to notice the rhythm and intonation of the sentences. Then, try to repeat what you heard as closely as possible. You can pause the video or audio, repeat the sentence, and then continue. This exercise will help you get used to the sounds of English and improve your pronunciation. It's also a good idea to record yourself when you repeat sentences. This way, you can listen to your own voice and see where you can improve. Listening and repeating is a simple but effective way to practice speaking and to improve your pronunciation and fluency. Speak with others. If you have the opportunity, try to find someone to practice speaking English with. This could be a friend, a family member, or even someone you meet online. Speaking with others gives you real experience in having conversations and helps you learn how to respond to questions and comments. It also helps you get used to the natural flow of conversation in English. If you don't have anyone to practice with in person, you can look for language exchange partners online. There are many websites and apps where you can find people who want to practice speaking English with you. Speaking with others can be a little scary at first, but it's one of the best ways to improve your speaking skills. The more you practice, the more confident you will become. Don't be afraid of mistakes. It's important to remember that making mistakes is a natural part of learning a new language. When you are learning to speak English, you will make mistakes. You might use the wrong word, forget a word, or say something that doesn't make sense. But that's okay. Making mistakes is how you learn and get better. Every time you make a mistake, you have a chance to learn something new. Instead of being afraid of mistakes, try to see them as opportunities to improve. The more you practice speaking, the more you will learn and the fewer mistakes you will make. So don't be afraid to speak, even if you're not sure if it's correct. The important thing is to keep trying and to keep practicing. Learn phrases, not just words. When you learn a new word, it's a good idea to learn it in a phrase or a sentence. For example, instead of just learning the word apple, learn the phrase "I want an apple." This way, you will know how to use the word in a sentence and how it fits with other words. Learning phrases is more useful than just learning single words because it helps you understand how words are used together in real-life situations. It also makes it easier to remember the words because you are learning them in context. This can help you speak more naturally and fluently. The more phrases you learn, the more tools you will have when it comes time to speak. Be patient with yourself. Learning to speak English takes time, and it's important to be patient with yourself. It's easy to get frustrated if you feel like you're not improving as quickly as you want to. But remember that every little bit of progress is a step in the right direction. Even if you can only practice for a few minutes each day, that's better than nothing. Learning a new language is like running a marathon, not a sprint. It takes time, effort, and dedication, but if you keep practicing and don't give up, you will get better over time. So be patient with yourself, celebrate your progress, and keep going. Use technology to help you. There are many tools and apps that can help you practice speaking English. For example, you can use language learning apps to practice your pronunciation and vocabulary. Some apps even have speech recognition technology that can give you feedback on how well you are pronouncing words. You can also use apps to find language exchange partners or join online communities where you can practice speaking with others. Technology can be a great way to get more practice and to find resources that can help you improve your speaking skills. The more you use these tools, the more confident you will become in speaking English. Keep practicing and don't give up. Learning to speak English is a journey, and it's important to keep practicing and not give up. There will be times when it feels difficult, but remember that every time you practice, you are getting better. It's okay to make mistakes and to feel nervous sometimes. The important thing is to keep going and to keep trying. With time, practice, and patience, you will improve and speaking English will become easier and more natural. So don't give up, keep practicing, and soon you will see the progress you have made. Overcoming common challenges in speaking English. Dealing with nervousness. It's common to feel nervous when speaking English. especially if you're not used to it. This nervousness can make it hard to find the right words or even make you forget what you wanted to say. But remember, it's okay to feel nervous. Everyone feels this way when they're learning something new. The key is not to let your nerves stop you from trying. One way to deal with nervousness is to take deep breaths before you speak. This can help calm your mind and make it easier to think clearly. You can also try practicing what you want to say before you speak. For example, if you know you're going to have a conversation in English, take a few minutes beforehand to think about what you might say. This can help you feel more prepared and less nervous. Another helpful tip is to remind yourself that it's okay to make mistakes. No one expects you to be perfect, and the people you are speaking with will likely appreciate your effort to communicate in their language. The more you practice, the more your confidence will grow, and the less nervous you will feel. Building confidence. Confidence is key to speaking English well. The more confident you feel, the easier it will be to speak without worrying about mistakes. One way to build confidence is to focus on what you can do rather than what you can't. For example, instead of thinking about all the words you don't know, think about the words you do know and how you can use them to express yourself. It's also helpful to celebrate your successes, no matter how small they may seem. Every time you successfully communicate in English, give yourself credit. This positive reinforcement can help build your confidence over time. Another way to build confidence is to practice speaking in a safe environment where you feel comfortable making mistakes. This could be with a friend, a family member, or even by yourself in front of a mirror. The more you practice in a comfortable setting, the more confident you will feel when it comes time to speak in a real conversation. Improving pronunciation. Pronunciation is another common challenge when learning to speak English. English has many sounds that might not exist in your native language, and it can be difficult to make these sounds correctly. But with practice, you can improve your pronunciation. One way to do this is to listen carefully to native speakers and try to imitate the way they speak. Pay attention to how they form the sounds and where they place their tongue and lips. You can also use online resources or apps that help you practice pronunciation. These tools often have recordings of native speakers that you can listen to and repeat. Another helpful tip is to practice speaking slowly. When you speak slowly, it's easier to focus on making each sound correctly. Over time, as you become more comfortable with the sounds, you can gradually speed up your speech. Remember, improving your pronunciation takes time, so be patient with yourself and keep practicing. Expanding your vocabulary. A limited vocabulary can make it difficult to express yourself in English. If you don't know the right word, it can be hard to say what you want to say. But there are ways to expand your vocabulary and make speaking easier. One way is to learn new words in context. Instead of just memorizing a list of words, try to learn them in sentences or phrases. This will help you understand how the words are used in real-life situations, making it easier to remember and use them. Another tip is to read in English. Reading can expose you to new words and phrases that you might not hear in everyday conversation. You can start with simple books or articles and gradually move on to more challenging texts as your vocabulary grows. It's also helpful to keep a vocabulary journal where you write down new words and their meanings. Reviewing this journal regularly can help reinforce your learning. And don't forget to practice using your new words in conversation. The more you use them, the more natural they will feel. Improving grammar. Grammar can be tricky, but it's an important part of speaking English correctly. If you're unsure about grammar, it can make it hard to form sentences or make you hesitate when speaking. One way to improve your grammar is to study it regularly. You can use grammar books, online resources, or apps to learn the rules. But it's also important to practice using the grammar in real sentences. For example, if you're learning about past tense, try to talk about things you did yesterday or last week. This will help you see how the grammar works in real-life situations. Another tip is to listen to how native speakers use grammar. Pay attention to the way they form sentences and try to imitate their patterns. And don't be afraid to ask for help if you're unsure about something. If you're speaking with someone and you're not sure if you used the right grammar, you can ask them to correct you. Most people will be happy to help, and this feedback can be very valuable for your learning. Understanding different accents. English is spoken in many different countries, and each place has its own accent. This can make it challenging to understand spoken English, especially if you're used to hearing just one type of accent. But learning to understand different accents is an important part of becoming fluent in English. One way to get used to different accents is to listen to a variety of English speakers. You can watch movies, listen to podcasts, or follow videos from different countries where English is spoken. This will expose you to different accents and help your brain get used to the variations in pronunciation. Another tip is to practice with native speakers from different places. If you have the opportunity, try to speak with people from different countries and regions. This will give you real-life practice in understanding different accents. Remember, it's okay if you don't understand everything at first. Understanding different accents takes time and practice, so be patient with yourself and keep listening. Practical tips for continuous improvement. Set realistic goals. When learning to speak English, it's important to set realistic goals. If you set goals that are too big or too difficult, you might feel discouraged if you don't reach them. Instead, start with small, achievable goals that you can build on over time. For example, you could set a goal to learn 5 new words each week or to have a short conversation in English every day. As you reach these small goals, you can gradually increase the difficulty. This will help you stay motivated and give you a sense of accomplishment as you progress. It's also helpful to track your progress. You can keep a journal where you write down the goals you have achieved and the new things you have learned. This will help you see how far you have come and keep you motivated to continue. Make English part of your daily life. One of the best ways to improve your speaking skills is to make English a regular part of your daily life. The more you use English, the more comfortable you will become with it. You can start by incorporating English into your daily routines. For example, you can listen to English music or podcasts while you're cooking or exercising. You can also try to think in English instead of your native language. When you're doing everyday activities, like shopping or walking, try to describe what you see or what you're doing in English. Another tip is to change the language settings on your devices, like your phone or computer, to English. This will give you more exposure to the language throughout the day. The more you surround yourself with English, the more natural it will become. Join English-speaking communities. Joining a community of English speakers is a great way to practice your speaking skills and meet new people. This could be an in-person group, like a language club, or an online community, like a forum or a social media group. Being part of a community gives you regular opportunities to practice speaking and to hear how others speak. It also provides support and encouragement from people who are also learning or who are fluent in English. You can share tips, ask questions, and even practice speaking together. If you join an online community, you can find people from all over the world who speak English, which can also help you get used to different accents and ways of speaking. Being part of a community can make learning English more fun and less lonely, and it can give you the motivation to keep practicing. Watch and learn from native speakers. Watching native English speakers can be a great way to learn how to speak more naturally. You can watch movies, TV shows, or online videos to see how people use English in different situations. Pay attention to their pronunciation, the words they use, and how they structure their sentences. Try to imitate what you see and hear. You can also watch videos that teach English pronunciation and conversation skills. These videos often break down the sounds and patterns of English, making it easier for you to understand and practice. Watching and learning from native speakers can help you improve your fluency and make your speaking sound more natural. Conclusion: the path to fluency. Learning to speak English is a journey that takes time, patience, and a lot of practice. It's normal to face challenges along the way, like feeling nervous, struggling with pronunciation, or finding the right words to say. But with determination and the right strategies, you can overcome these challenges and become a confident English speaker. Remember to set realistic goals, practice regularly, and be patient with yourself. Surround yourself with English as much as possible and take advantage of the many resources and tools available to help you learn. Most importantly, don't give up. Every time you practice, you are getting closer to your goal of fluency. So keep practicing, stay positive, and enjoy the journey. With time and effort, you will achieve your goal of speaking English with confidence. Subscribe to the channel if you like this video. Leave comment what video you would want to watch next. Also, watch other video on my channel.